And hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the JetFuel podcast, the podcast all about New York Jets football. And I'm your host, Keith Harrington. And as always, joining me, Kyle Stickles and also Pat Davis. And we're set to talk about another week of New York Jets football. And what a week of New York Jets football. It was the Jets falling to division rival, the New England Patriots, at home 15-10. And a game that was frustrating to say the least, a game that the Jets really needed to win, in my opinion, and I think in Kyle and Pat's opinion too, if they wanted to really start to make some headways and really start to consider themselves a playoff contender with Zach Wilson at the helm. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. 10 points on offense, 15 on defense is pretty good against New England, but 10 points on offense is not going to get it done, and it wasn't a great effort for Zach Wilson. So now it's kind of, where do the Jets management, Coach Robert Saleh, go from here? And we'll start with you, Kyle. What was your assessment of Zach Wilson's performance on Sunday?
Well, I thought it was not good at all, to be honest. Just watching the game, there's countless times they showed replays circling guys who were wide open down the field. I don't know what was going through his head during some of the plays, but a lot of guys open down the field, a lot of miscommunications on the offense. That's pretty much what I saw.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that, Kyle. Not a stellar performance by any stretch by Zach Wilson. Just not looking confident out there, not looking sure of himself, not finding the open men downfield. I'm not sure what he was looking at sometimes, but what do you think, Pat?
I think he had another poor performance, Keith, just like last week. Again, I'm going to say, a lot of it wasn't his fault. I said that he would be running for his life if they couldn't block for him, and that's what we saw once again this week. I think even Dwayne Brown was either moved to the opposite tackle, because I saw Mekhi Becton playing left tackle rather than right tackle this week. And so it's bad. Yeah, I would say the performance once again was poor. And once again, I would blame most of it on the offensive line and on Zach Wilson, because he just has no confidence out there. He's literally running for his life.
Zach Wilson's numbers, just to reiterate those: 18 for 36, 157 yards. Dalvin Cook, brought in to help the running game, 8 carries for 18 yards. And that's your leading rusher. I mean, 8 carries for 18 yards is nothing to write home about. The Patriots dusted off Ezekiel Elliott, who Dallas gave up on. And the Patriots ended up picking up. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott and the later part of his career here that the Dallas Cowboys gave up on at 16 carries for 80 yards. So it's not good if your leading rusher has 18 yards and Ezekiel Elliott can go out and run for 80. Garrett Wilson had looks like 5 catches for 45 yards, and just not a good performance any way you look at it. Looking at the scoring, the Jets got behind early. They got a field goal to come within 13-3 at one point, got within 13-10, and then they just safety by the Patriots, and they just couldn't get anything going past that. So not a great outing for the Jets, not a great outing for the offensive liner, Zach Wilson. So, let's look at it. It's the offensive line, yes, but is there more to this right now, Kyle, with Zach Wilson than just the offensive line? I mean, let's assume, fairy tale dreams maybe right here a little bit, but let's assume they have a real good offensive line. And there are some critics out there who've said that the line seems to be a little bit better. Can Zach Wilson still get it done with a good offensive line, I guess, is the question.
The way I look at it is I really don't see any confidence in him right now. I mean, hopefully he proves me wrong and every Jet fan out there, but just watching him Sunday, I saw no good reads. not looking down the field. That's one safety play, critical drive, which he should have gotten the ball out quicker or something like that. Just bad read. So I don't know what's going to go on moving forward, but I'd say if he has another bad performance this Sunday, I think you're going to see maybe some QB changes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He's not a rookie anymore. He's got a couple of years under his belt at this point. You would think that a guy at this point would be getting better. He was benched at times last year during the season. So, Robert Saleh and the management of the Jets, the ownership of the Jets, they've got to think, although credit to Saleh, Pat, he has been 100% behind Zach Wilson, but you got to be sitting there right now thinking this guy's been here 3 years now. He's got to be better at this point. Wouldn't you think? I mean, what do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I would think that he does have to be at least a little better. I also think if you put him behind an offensive line that's very good, I still think that he would do a lot better than he's doing. I agree with Kyle in the fact that he's making some bad decisions when he's in the pocket, but I also see that some of that is when he's under a lot of pressure. When he has that time to step back and throw like any other quarterback, he's finding more receivers. I don't think the receivers are giving him a lot of help either. Randall Cobb is not really playing well as far as I'm concerned. Garrett Wilson, we know, is the go-to guy, but the 45 yards you're speaking of, most of those came in the second half. I think he only had one catch in the first half for maybe like 5 yards, in an offense that in the first half only had 39 total yards and only 10 of them were passing, 29 of them were running, and that's still bad.
Right, exactly. So Robert Saleh, as I mentioned a bit ago, just continues to defend Zach Wilson as the quarterback. And what do you think about that, Kyle? I mean, is he just doing, being the good leader, the company line, I guess, not wanting to come out publicly and say anything negative because, he keeps saying Zach Wilson's still our best chance to win. And Jets fans are sitting out there thinking, are you kidding me? So what do you think about that, Kyle?
Yeah, I could definitely see this going a little further if they don't end up winning this Sunday. But, I mean, at some point you got to realize that this team has a lot of talent, and you can't just be giving up the season this early just because of your quarterback. And obviously you saw it Sunday. They showed replays a lot. There's a lot of yelling on the Jets sidelines, which isn't good. I heard the defense wasn't too happy about Saleh's decision to keep Zach in, but sooner or later, either the coaching on offense or just in general has to get better. Obviously, you saw too that on the Jets' last possession of the game on offense, fourth down, threw a 2-yard dump off pass. Like, you can't be doing that and fourth down with the game on the line. Like,
Right.
There's got to be better coaching.
Exactly. Pat, what do you think about that? I mean, Robert Saleh, the company line, doing what he's probably told to do. He's just sticking by Zach Wilson no matter what. But at some point, the team's going to be not happy with their coach and things are going to start to unravel.
Yeah, I think, like I said before, when you're a first-round draft pick, they're going to stick with you as long as they can. I mean, there's, a certain amount of smoke he might be blowing up Zach Wilson, but, he's going to stay with him for now because it makes them all look bad if the first-round guy doesn't do well. You say, why did you recruit him in the first place? So they're going to stick with him as long as they can until they can't. And until he starts, hopefully he doesn't play that bad, but until he continues to do what he's doing and just doesn't play well, then they'll finally give up and go to somebody else. But they're trying to right now give him every opportunity to still be the player they thought he was when they drafted him. The kid's got a lot of talent, but, like I said, he's under a lot of duress from everything, not only the blocking, but got other players in his ear, like you said now. Speaking about him good or bad. And so it's tough out there for him. I don't know if he's going to be confident enough to pull himself out of the rut,
Right, right. And Robert Saleh, he's got to be. Do you think his job, Kyle, could be in any danger if things start to continue to go south this season? I mean, by sticking with Zach Wilson, do you think that's going to put possibly his job on the line?
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. Uh, as you mentioned, he's the one defending Zach, saying he's the best guy to stick to right now. But I mean, from a fan's perspective, everybody seemed to think that the Jets should be moving quarterback change around. And I mean, if the Jets don't turn things around with all this hype around them and the roster they have, I think you could definitely see his coaching job going uh, spiral downward if they don't get quarterback figured out.
Yeah, what do you think, Pat? Is Robert Saleh putting his job in danger here by not doing something different at quarterback?
That's a good question, Keith. I don't know if he's necessarily putting himself in any danger of losing his job. I mean, the reality is that, whatever you say about Zach Wilson, he's not Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be the guy to lead them to the playoffs and to the Super Bowl. So already you have to judge the coach differently because he's dealing with a whole nother player. So, my thing is that are you going to lose the players that only have short contracts that you put on the team to try to give you this chance to win the Super Bowl? Because not only are they losing games, but you only have them under contract for a year. So now you got to try to get them to come back to a team that's not winning and to buy into, okay, let's try the Aaron Rodgers thing all over again and see if they stay.
Well, this week the Jets did make a move at quarterback. We've been talking on this show a lot. We've been throwing out, Jacoby Brissett and some other names. He seems to be one guy that we thought would possibly be available. Rumors this week that Carson Wentz got in contact. Maybe Matt Ryan got in contact with the Jets. We know Colin Kaepernick actually wrote a letter. But after all that, the Jets have signed to their practice squad Trevor Siemian. And, I think they misinterpreted if they watched the show, our conversation when we said they should bring in a veteran quarterback. I say this a little bit tongue in cheek, but I would have liked to have been a fly on the wall of the decision-making process on that one. Should we try to trade for a disgruntled Justin Fields with Chicago? No. How about Kirk Cousins? Things are going bad for the Vikings. Maybe he's available. Should we call them? No. What about Jacoby Brissett? What about Carson Wentz? What about Matt Ryan? And somebody in the room goes, let's go get Trevor Siemian. And everybody goes, there it is. There's our guy. Where does that conversation come from? Any chance, Kyle, that Trevor Siemian's going to help the Jets at all?
Well, I haven't seen him on. I don't know if he's been on a team in a while. I remember him being on the Jets. I think it was practice squad in 2019. But from what I've seen from him, though, in NFL games, yeah, not really that good. But I mean, they also got to look at it, and I also heard that the Jets are trying to figure out like ways to spend their money because they don't want to go messing with stuff since they already spent a lot on Aaron Rodgers and stuff. So they also got to look at that though.
Yeah, the big rumor about trading for a Kirk Cousins. How do you pay? You can't have Kirk Cousins on your payroll at the same time you have Aaron Rodgers on your payroll. It just doesn't add up. It's just not going to happen. Were you surprised, Pat, that they signed Trevor Siemian?
I was surprised that they signed Trevor Siemian, Keith. That's definitely not what we were talking about when we said a veteran quarterback. I was thinking more the lines of an Andy Dalton, who came in for Bryce Young this weekend for the Panthers. Andy Dalton started 9 years for the Bengals and started 9 out of the 11 games he played for the Cowboys. So that's what I meant when I said, a veteran quarterback. The one thing that, Trevor Siemian has is that he's already played with the Jets, so he knows the offense. But then again, like we said, we didn't want them to go out and get somebody who was potentially on the same level as a Zach Wilson. I mean, Trevor Siemian, when he was here with the Jets in 2019, only completed 3 out of 6 passes. So, it's sort of you went sideways instead of forward.
Then got hurt, broke his ankle, if I remember it correctly.
Yeah.
So not exactly durable either from what we've seen. So
not the choice I would have made, Keith.
Yeah, and Jameis Winston was a name that was out there, but now with Derek Carr injured, he's become the starter of the Saints for the time being. So he's off the table, even if he was ever on the table. So it'll be interesting in the coming weeks, to say the least. We'll have plenty to talk about. I don't know how much good we'll have to talk about, but we'll certainly have plenty to talk about. We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about this week's game, Sunday night, MetLife Stadium. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champions, come to town. And, Patrick Mahomes and company, Kelsey, and maybe Swelsey with Taylor Swift and Kelsey, who knows? The whole show's coming to town, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. This is the JetFuel Podcast. And welcome back to the JetFuel Podcast. I'm your host, Keith Harrington, once again, along with Kyle Stickles, Pat Davis along with us. And now, after the discussion about the quarterback situation with the Jets, we look forward to Sunday night's game, the world champion Kansas City Chiefs coming to MetLife Stadium. And, we'll start with you, Kyle. Obviously, a monumental task in front of the Jets, but that's why they play the games. How many people thought the Arizona Cardinals were going to beat the Dallas Cowboys that seemed invincible their first couple of games? So how can the Jets possibly beat the Kansas City Chiefs at MetLife Stadium Sunday night? How do they compete, Kyle?
I think the main thing is the offense has to get rolling. I think Zach has to be able to read the field, get it to the open receivers, and they got to generate a better offensive line, get the running game going. Overall, just better offense. I think the defense will definitely keep them in the game Sunday. Obviously, they're known for not allowing a lot of points. So I think the main thing is the coaching and just the offense in general has to perform at a high level.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I would think that they'd have to get something going with the running game. Don't you think, Pat? I mean, the more you let Mahomes and company on the field, the more dangerous it's going to be for the Jets. They've got to put together some drives where they keep Mahomes over on the sideline. That might be part of their best defense. How do they do it, Pat?
Well, they're definitely going to have to try to run the ball, and that won't be easy because, they have Chris Jones back, the Chiefs do. So, they're going to be getting after the Jets. I think that the defense, the only way they're going to win this game is if they hold the Chiefs down to some points. I think if if Aaron Rodgers was there, Aaron Rodgers' record is 80-10 when his defense holds the opposing offense to 18 points or less. We don't have Aaron Rodgers quarterback, and we've got Zach Wilson. So I don't know what they're going to have to do other than just try to run the ball. I don't know how the pass thing is going to work out. But if the defense plays well and holds them to a few points, then they've got a chance. But if they can't do that in the first half, the game might get out of hand.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Pat. And so if the game gets out of hand, if things don't go very well, you've got Trevor Siemian there on the practice squad. How long do you think it will be before, Kyle, the Jets make a move? If they lose this one, they're 3 in a row, 1-3. Do you think we see, if this one doesn't go well, Trevor Siemian next week? Is kind of Zach Wilson playing for his season here on Sunday? Or maybe his career.
Yeah, I could definitely see. Yeah, I could definitely see something like that happening. I mean, the whole fan base, I think, is kind of at their wits' end with bad quarterback play. overall, we just need better quarterback play out there. You can't be having that many errors on offense, and I think it's going to be a huge test for Zach because, yeah, he'll be playing for his career, I'd say, basically. He's got to be able to read the field more and just overall perform.
Pat, what do you think about that? If Zach Wilson doesn't have a good game on Sunday night, if the Chiefs cruise to an easy win, is Robert Saleh going to have to make a move to either, we keep saying Trevor Siemian, but, Tim Boyle played pretty well at in Detroit when Jared Goff was hurt last year. So, do they have to make a move here if things aren't good on Sunday night?
I think they definitely have to make a move one way or another. Either put in Boyle or, like we spoke of, them picking back up Simeon. And, he knows the offense at least. We had said that they should go out and get somebody that would learn the playbook faster. So at least in Trevor, you have a person that has already played on the team and probably knows the offense. And like you said, Boyle was the backup and did a good job when he had to. And so I think you give one of those guys a chance if Zach Wilson fails this weekend.
Yeah, you have nothing to lose is the way I look at it. I mean, you're losing anyway. So, it certainly probably couldn't get much worse. I mean, you would hope it'll only get better. Last thing we're going to do tonight is we've been trying some new segments here. Last week we did a segment where it was contender or pretender, and we looked at the teams that were unbeaten. And do we think they're for real? Do we not think they're for real? We have 4 teams out there right now that are 0-3. And I just want to take a look at those and say, do any of those, do we think, have a chance to possibly be playoff teams before it's all said and done? Do any of them have any chance to climb from 0-3? First of all, the Carolina Panthers, of course, Bryce Young, number 1 draft pick, but has been injured. Not sure if he's going to play this week. They've got good wide receiver DJ Chark. They've got pretty good defense. The thing that Carolina makes me think they still have somewhat of a chance is they're in a very weak division with the Saints, who now have lost Derek Carr, with a Falcons team that's rebuilding, a Tampa Bay team that's, got Baker Mayfield. I think maybe Carolina, just because of their division, Kyle, has a tiny chance of maybe getting back in it, even though they're 0-3.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to tell with them because obviously you got Bryce Young being the first overall pick, just being thrown into the offense already in his first year. But yeah, they have a really weak division too. Also, I could definitely see him making the playoffs with just winning the division. Obviously, it being an easy division, regardless.
Yeah, that division, you might be able to go 7-10 or 8-9. And I think it's happened before where you could be a contender. What do you think? Carolina, any chance, Pat, to get back in it in that weak division?
I think if they make the playoffs, it's just like you said, it's because of the division being weak. I see that that's the only way they get in. I would like to see Bryce Young just get better this season and get ready to be a better quarterback in his second year. So I say, yeah, they'll make the playoffs if it's a lot of losses and like you said, it is a weak division. But otherwise, yeah, I don't see them making the playoffs.
Another team that's 0-3 that I think legitimately has a chance to possibly climb out of the hole and be a playoff team is the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, this is a team that's got way too much talent with Kirk Cousins and with Jefferson at wide receiver. Their defense seems to be a little bit better than they were last year. I think they're of the 0-3 teams, I think they're the favorite to maybe possibly come from the hole and get in the playoffs. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I definitely think so too. With that, I think Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson I think they're already in like the top spots for like receiving yards and passing yards are already this season. So they definitely have a lot of talent there too. I think they're going to come back, and I think they're playoff contenders.
Yeah, I mean, last year they were one of the top teams in the league. They got lucky. They had a lot of games where they went right down to the wire and they pulled them out. But Pat, of all the teams that are 0-3, I would think Minnesota is the one team that's got a chance to get in the playoffs above the rest.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there, Keith. I think that Kirk Cousins and Jefferson being there, and they've got a very good tight end there too. And so, yeah, if any of the teams can turn it around, I would think it'd be the Minnesota Vikings.
All right, the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields has come out, doesn't think he's being used properly, and usually when things like that happen, people kind of stick up for the coaches. A lot of the people in the media and on the sports talk shows, but they're actually a lot of people are actually sticking up here for Justin Fields, saying that they're not putting him in a situation to play the way he plays best, rolling him out of the pocket, a lot of designed runs, the read option. But all that said, they signed a superstar wide receiver this year, or picked up in a trade. But I think the Bears have too much. They're in flux. I think they're done, Kyle.
Yeah, I don't see them doing much going forward either. They haven't really performed at a high level this whole season, getting blown out last week by the Chiefs and losing in a crucial game at home, I'd say, to the Packers opening day. But I don't see them being contenders at all.
Yeah, what do you think? The 0-3 Chicago Bears, Pat, can they get things going?
No, I don't think they get things going this year. I think Justin Fields is being used improperly. It brings me to the Jets a little bit. I think that Nathaniel Hackett is using Zach Wilson a little bit improperly too, because like you said, he's a mobile quarterback. Maybe get him outside the pocket and let him do some different things, because sitting in the pocket, Zach Wilson's just sitting duck right now with the blocking that they have. But yeah, I don't see the Bears turning around, not in this season, especially when it's dissension not only between the coach and the players, and even the fans can see what's going on. So once the fans can judge your team and it actually be right on the money, yeah, I don't see them coming back as a playoff team this year.
And then lastly, maybe saving I don't know if I should say saving the worst for last, but certainly last Sunday they were the 0-3 Denver Broncos. I mean, I thought with Sean Payton there and Russell Wilson, I thought this team's got to be better, right? Sean Payton's one of the great, coaches in the NFL, one of the most highly successful coaches in recent time. But he's got to be scratching his head right now going, man, I had that great job in broadcasting. What am I doing here? 70 spot put up by the Miami Dolphins. Just too much of a disaster there. Dumpster fire for the Denver Broncos to come back. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I don't think they're contenders this season. Getting blown out by 20-70, I think it was. Just overall bad play by them. I think it's bad offense, bad defense, just overall all around. Not great play from them. So
yeah, I was listening to a show. I was on my way back from Massachusetts. I was listening to a show on Sirius Radio, and it was sort of like it was a red zone type of show, but it wasn't the red zone. And every time those guys started to talk, they said, "Wait a minute, we're going back out to Miami." And as my dog gets caught up in the cord here, maybe we can edit that part out. So, yeah, I was driving home from Massachusetts and I was listening to a show similar to the Red Zone, and where they go out and check in with all the games. And they just kept saying, back out to Miami. The Dolphins have scored again, back out to Miami. So, not looking good there, Pat, in Denver.
No, it's not looking good at all in Denver. I'm surprised at Russell Wilson's play. I'm also surprised at the relationship that he has between he and Sean Payton. I thought it would be a good match, because Sean Payton is one of the offensive gurus as far as coaching. But it just hasn't been a good relationship or a good combination between the two of them. And unfortunately, I don't see them making the playoffs.
Yeah, so maybe out of those three, 4-0-3 teams, maybe one of them, the Minnesota Vikings, can come back. Slight tiny bit of a chance because of their poor division for the Carolina Panthers and the Bears and the Broncos. We can pretty much say they're done. However, one of them is going to get a win this weekend because the Bears play the Broncos this weekend.
Right.
So one of them is going to get in the win column here this weekend. So we'll see, who wins between Justin Fields and Russell Wilson there in that one. So that should be real interesting. That's going to wrap it up here for the JetFuel podcast for this week. One thing we know for certain, we're going to have a lot to talk about next week. Hopefully Zach Wilson plays well. Hopefully the Jets show some improvement and play Kansas City tough, maybe even pull off the upset. But nonetheless, with the Chiefs coming to town, there'll be the whole Taylor Swift stuff. So, she's supposedly going to be at the game. So either way, guys, we're going to have a lot to talk about, whether it be football or whether it be Taylor Swift. We're going to have a lot to talk about regardless next week here on the JetFuel podcast. So thanks, everybody, for joining us. And we'll catch you next time. This has been the JetFuel podcast.